Chevrolet once built a monster V8 that never saw the light of day in a production car, an engine so powerful, it was banned before it ever hit the street. This is the story of the legendary and forbidden cell, S7454, in the early 1970s. Chevrolet was on a mission. Muscle cars were king, and power was everything. The big block 454 cubic inch V8 was already tearing up the streets in the Chevy LS7 and Corvette, but GM had even bigger plans, a high-performance LS7 version of the 454. The LS7 was no ordinary engine. It was rated at 465 horsepower, but insiders say the real output was over 500 horsepower. It had forged steel crankshafts, aluminum heads, a solid lifter camshaft, and a huge Holley 850 carb. This thing was built to dominate. The LS7 was supposed to be the crown jewel of the Chevy SS lineup in 1970. It was ready, but then it vanished. The engine never made it into a production car. So, what happened? Two words: emissions and insurance. The government started cracking down on emissions, and insurance companies were slapping massive premiums on high horsepower cars. GM got cold feet. Some say Chevy was afraid the LS7 would be too wild for the public. Others claim it would have embarrassed the Corvette if the Chevelle came with more power. But here's the twist: the LS7 did exist, just not in the way you might expect. Chevy released it as a crate engine. If you were building a drag car or had deep enough pockets, you could buy an LS7 over the counter. T became a legend in the underground world of street and strip racing. The LS7 was basically a race engine disguised as a parts catalog, number GM's dirty little secret. Today, the LS7 name lives on in the modern 7.0 L engine used in the C6Z06 Corvette, and other beast in its own right. But the original LS7454, that was the one they were afraid to build, the muscle car that never was. Intended as GM's next-gen big block, in the early 70s, Chevrolet developed a high-performance for 54 CIV8 designated RPOL's 7XCH suffix to top its LS6 and ZL1 offerings, officially rated at about 465 to 500 horsepower. Independent dyno tests suggest it produced 550 to 600 horsepower. Right out of the crate, emergence of stricter emission regulations and skyrocketing insurance premiums in the 70s put a stop to GM installing high-power engines like the LS7 into production cars, even though it made it through prototype stages. Rather than bringing it to market, GM pivoted and released it as crate engine number 3,965,774 for off-road or racing use only. The original LS7 454 is far more than automotive lyrics, a bulletproof high-output engine that cruised under GM's radar. It never entered production due to regulatory pressures, but found its way into the hands of racers and collectors. Today, it remains one of the most sought-after crate engines from the golden era of muscle, with scarce examples commanding serious value. If you'd like, I can help source footage, dyno clips, or write a deep dive segment for your video. Just say the word. It was a special high-performance 454-inch big block engine that I put into my 1972 Vega Econofunny car, coupled to an ATI turbo 400 transmission and converter. In pretty much stock form, I proceeded to run a best of 9.6 seconds at just shy of 140 miles per hour in the quarter with a single 800 Holley 4-barrel carb. The only change we ever made was try a few different flat tappet cams, notably ISKI and comp cams, both with great results. One went quicker, the other faster. This LS7 engine was supposed to be the successor of the potent LS6 425-horse Chevy engine that appeared in the 1970s Chevelle LS6454 line, and the following year in just 188 LS6 425-horse 1971 Corvettes. These Corvettes were cubed, sneaked through squared, as a $1,221 RPO option, even though 1971 found higher gas prices, higher insurance rates, and soon-to-come smog and unleaded fuel mandates that had many manufacturers gearing up, or should I say gearing down for. And it was because of these horsepower-robbing mandates and declining condition of the muscle car era that Chevy pulled the plug on inserting the LS7 into Chevelle and Corvette models. Thus, Part number 3,965,774 was born, and Chevy sold thousands of these cubed off-road use, squared-only engines to enthusiasts and pre-1972 muscle car owners. By the way, your 1969 Camaro is fully street legal with this engine, as there were no catalytic converters and smog engine mandates that decade. Additionally, part number 3,965,774 454 LS7 engine was a cubed, long block squared crate engine, which means it came less intake manifold, distributor, ignition, carb, starter, and water pump. But oh my, what a buy it was back then. The engine specifics include cast iron, open chamber, rectangular port cylinder heads, with 2.19 intake and 1.88 exhaust valves, cubed dimple squared, 7/16 bolt steel rods, and forged 12.25 compression pistons. The cam is a flat tappet, solid lifter 560 intake, and 600 exhaust design, necessitating setting the valve lash regularly for ultimate performance. The block featured 4-bolt mains, and the XCH nomenclature in your stamped block number is proof it is indeed an original LS7 block. The bottom end finds a forged steel 4.0-inch stroke crankshaft that is externally balanced, meaning Chevy made special flywheels and harmonic balancers, weighted specific to the 4.0-inch stroke crank. If you enjoyed this slice of hidden horsepower history, hit that like button, subscribe for more untold car stories,